In ancient Galilee, Jesus, the Son of God, walked among the people, bringing hope and healing, just doing good everywhere he went. Matthew chapter 4, verse 23. One day, a leper, full of faith, approached him, saying, "Lord, if you are willing, you can make me clean." This is recorded in Matthew chapter 8, verse 2. Jesus, moved with compassion, touched him and said in verse 3, "I am willing, be cleansed." Immediately the leprosy left him. News of his power spread, and soon a centurion pleaded for his paralyzed servant in Matthew chapter 8, verses 5 and 6. Jesus offered to come, but the centurion, understanding authority, said, "Just say the word, and my servant will be healed," in verse 8. Jesus marveled at such faith, declaring he had not found it even in Israel. The servant was healed that very hour, as Jesus said, "Go your way, and as you have believed, so let it be done for you." Later, Jesus entered Peter's house and found his mother-in-law suffering from a high fever. He touched her hand, and the fever left her. She immediately rose and began to serve them, as seen in Matthew chapter 8, verse 15. As evening fell, many demon-possessed people were brought to him. He cast out the spirits with a word. Matthew chapter 8, verse 16. He healed all who were sick, fulfilling the prophecy of Isaiah. He took our illnesses and bore our diseases, as seen in Matthew chapter 8, verse 17. One stormy night, as Jesus and his disciples crossed the Sea of Galilee, a fierce gale arose in Matthew chapter 8, verse 23 to 24. The boat was swamped by waves, but Jesus was asleep. The disciples, terrified, woke him. "Lord, save us! We are going to drown!" they cried. But Jesus rebuked them for their little faith. Jesus then stood and rebuked the winds and the sea, and there was a great calm, as Matthew chapter 8, verse 26 shows us. The disciples were amazed, asking, "What kind of man is this, that even the winds and sea obey him?" In another instance, in Matthew chapter 14, verse 15, a large crowd gathered to hear Jesus teach, but they had had no food and were hungry. His disciples suggested sending them away, but Jesus said, "They do not need to go away. You give them something to eat." They found only 5 loaves of bread and 2 small fish. Jesus took them, looked up to heaven, and blessed them in Matthew chapter 14, verses 17 to 19. He broke the loaves and gave them to the disciples, who then distributed them to the crowd. Matthew 14:19. Everyone ate and was satisfied. There were about 5,000 men, besides women and children. Afterward, they collected 12 basketfuls of broken pieces that were left over, according to Matthew chapter 14, verse 20. Later, Jesus walked on water toward his disciples' boat during a storm in Matthew chapter 14, verse 25. Seeing him, the disciples were terrified, thinking he was a ghost. But Jesus called out, "Take courage, it is I. Don't be afraid." Peter, ever bold, said, "Lord, if it's you, tell me to come to you on the water." Jesus said, "Come." Peter stepped out of the boat and began to walk on the water toward Jesus. But when he saw the strong wind, he became frightened and began to sink, crying out, "Lord, save me." Immediately Jesus reached out his hand and caught him. "You of little faith," he said, "why did you doubt?" When they climbed into the boat, the wind died down. The disciples worshipped him, saying, "Truly you are the Son of God," as recorded in Matthew chapter 14, verses 32 and 33. These are but a few of the many miracles Jesus performed, revealing his divine power and compassion. He healed the blind, made the lame walk, and raised the dead, demonstrating his authority over all creation. Each miracle was a sign, pointing to his identity as the Messiah, the promised Savior of the world, in John chapter 20, verses 30 and 31. His acts of love and power continue to inspire faith and offer hope to all who believe. He showed that with God, all things are possible, and his grace is sufficient for every need in Matthew chapter 19, verse 26. The miracles of Jesus are not just ancient stories. They are living testaments to his enduring love. They remind us that he is the same yesterday, today, and forever, always ready to bring healing, and restoration. And so, the story of Jesus' miracles continues to resonate, inviting all to experience his miraculous presence every day.